Hey guys, back again. This is Search the Scripture with another video coming to you guys right now about another topic or another passage that people like to use to go against Torah with. But again, it's misunderstood, and we're going to look at it in context today. All right. I haven't done a post on this one, so there's no really point to go back and look for it. I've never done a post on this one before. I just have it in my notes and studying it yesterday, so I figured I'd make a video on it. But anyway, so today's topic is about a passage in First Corinthians. So again, we're talking about Paul. Paul is the go-to guy for people that try to say Torah is done away with, and there's actually a reason for that. If people don't know, okay, and I'll explain that real quick before I hop into the video. Let me turn to it real quick, but there's a reason why people go to Paul, and I'm gonna show you right here before we start. All right, I'll put it up here so you guys can see. So right now we're in 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 15. Okay. And account that the long suffering of our Elohim is salvation, even as our beloved brother Paul, also according to the wisdom given unto him, hath written unto you. As in verse 16, as also in all his epistles, speaking in them of these things, in which are some things hard to be understood, which they that are unlearned and unstable wrest, as they do also the other scriptures unto their own destruction. Verse 17, ye therefore, beloved, seeing ye know these things before, beware lest ye also, being led away with the error of the wicked, fall from your own steadfastness. Okay? Peter just told us Paul seems confusing in his writings, and if you're unlearned, like he said, the word unlearned, okay, if you're uneducated, untaught in the scripture, because Paul is not the foundation of scripture, okay, you'll rest, and that word is twist the other scriptures unto their own destruction, okay? Like I said, Paul is not the foundation of scripture, guys. The foundation of scripture is Torah, and then followed by the prophets, the rest of the Old Testament, okay? There's never anything, always. I'm going to show you a passage in Isaiah 8, okay? Isaiah 8 and 20. To the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there's no light in them. The Messiah always talked, he expounded to, after his resurrection, he expounded to the disciples everything in the law of Moses and the prophets, and he added Psalms and one part, I can't remember where, concerning himself. The foundation is what they're always talking about, the law and the prophets, okay? That's what Paul was talking about when he talked about, with scripture, it's like milk and steak or your meat, okay? Milk is your foundation. You start that off as a baby. You should be reading the law and the prophets, the beginning, okay? The Old Testament. You start there and you grow. Now, granted, there are some books in the New Testament that you can start with after you read Torah, like James is rather simple. Out of the Gospels, I would suggest John maybe, but before you get into the letters of Paul, have your foundation in Torah and the prophets. Okay, or you're going to confuse them, like Peter said in freaking 2 Peter 3:15. It says you would, I guess, hold on, let me go back to it just to, I don't want to misquote anything here. It says you'd be led away with the error of the wicked, okay, and fall from your own steadfastness, your own faith, okay? You're going to fall in the same boat as the people that are breaking Torah, the wicked, those that sin, 1 John 3:4, okay? You're going to end up like them if you start out with Paul's letters and build your doctrine off of that when you don't even know what his doctrine was. His doctrine was the Messiah's, and the Messiah said his doctrine was of his father's. And the father's doctrine, Proverbs 4:2, for I give you good doctrine, forsake ye not my law. Okay? It's a domino effect. They all follow the doctrine of the Father, which is the Old Testament. So that's where your foundation should be. Okay? Anyway, let me hop into this topic today. It's 1 Corinthians 9 and 20. So if you guys, I'm using my physical Bible right now because I can't use my blue letter Bible. I got my notes pulled up here. Turn to 2 Corinthians 9:20. All right. Hold up. I'm crazy. 1 Corinthians. I apologize. It's a typo in my notes, guys. 1 Corinthians 9:20. Okay. And unto the Jews I became as a Jew that I might gain the Jews. To them that are under the law, as under the law, that I might gain them that are under the law. Okay. Verse 21 says, to them that are without law, as without law, being not without the law to Yahuwah, but under the law to Yahusha, that I might gain them that are without law. Okay. Let's talk about that. This passage is so misinterpreted. People think this means that Paul was uplifting Torah and keeping it around the Jews and denouncing it and telling the Gentiles, hey, you don't need it, don't follow it. Okay? People inject Torah into this passage. But read it again. Read verse 20 and 21. He does not say he is teaching with Torah here. That's injected, okay, by your own mind. All right? He's not talking about Torah. He's just talking about the gospel, and he's categorizing the people that either have the foundation of it, which was the Jews, they have a foundation of Torah, or the Gentiles who didn't have a foundation. Okay? So what is he talking about? What is he doing? He's not being deceitful and hypocritical. He's not doing one thing and saying another. Okay? Just to set the two groups apart, the Jews, when he's saying those that are under the law, he's talking about those that are under the law of sin. Okay? They're under the law of sin and death. They're under that curse. They don't have the true faith. Okay? So they're under that law. Okay? That I might gain them that are under the law, as we was talking about at the end of verse 20. And verse 21, he says, to them without law, talking about the Gentiles, because they don't have a foundation in Torah. They don't have a foundation in Scripture. These are new believers he's talking to. So they're without law. Okay? That's what he's talking about. And what he was doing when he says he became as one, he was associating himself with either the Jew or the Gentiles without breaking Torah, but still associating with them in a way that would not offend them, or that would help him use what they do to teach him, or to teach them, to bring them to the faith, to preach the gospel to them. The message was the same. The message he's talking about that he wants to bring is the gospel, okay? But depending on his group, whether they have a foundation of Torah, they don't have the faith, the Jews that are under the law here, but they have the foundation of Torah. They know Torah. And he's using that. He's using what they have their foundation in to show them, hey, Yahusha was our Messiah, and he's showing them Torah in such a way that shows them, okay, the Messiah. Gentiles, different case. He's got to teach them in a different way. They're not going to understand Torah. They don't have a foundation in it, okay? So he's just changing how he gives his message depending on whether they know or don't know Torah. Has nothing to do with keeping Torah itself. He's not talking about that. That's injected by someone's own mind, okay? That has nothing to do with it. A passage here that I'll even show you guys, it's an example, in Acts. Okay, and if you want to go ahead and turn to Acts, we'll turn to Acts 17 and 22, please. All right. This is Paul talking to the Greeks. All right. Then Paul stood in the midst of Mars Hill and said, Ye men of Athens, I perceive that in all things ye are too superstitious. Okay, superstitious. They worship without knowing the truth. They don't know the God that they worship. Okay. For as I passed by and beheld your devotions, I found an altar with this inscription, To the unknown God, whom therefore ye ignorantly worship, him I declare unto you. Yahuwah that made the world and all things therein, seeing that he is the Elohim of heaven and earth, dwelleth not in temples made with hands, neither is worshipped with men's hands as though he needed anything, seeing he giveth to all life and breath and all things, and hath made of one blood all nations of men for to dwell on all the face of the earth, and hath determined the times before appointed and the bounds of their habitation. Okay, that they should seek Yahuwah, if haply they might feel after him and find him, though he be not far from every one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being. Okay. Also, as your own poet said, for we are also his offspring. For as much then are we the offspring of Yahuwah, we ought not to think that the Godhead is like unto gold or silver or stone, graven by art and man's device. Okay? So what did he just do? He just preached to the Greeks, brought them the message of the gospel. Like, honestly, I think Paul's kind of slick. Not slick in a conniving or evil way, but he's slick as he's good with his words. Okay, he just preached to the Greeks, and showed them the gospel by identifying with them, pointing out something that they identified with and pointing them in the right direction towards the gospel. He didn't become a Greek in order to do that, okay? And the way I want you guys to look at this is if Paul was witnessing to a bunch of murderers, do you think he would become a murderer to share the gospel with a murderer? Or an adulterer to share the gospel with an adulterer? He's not turning into a Jew or taking away Torah. He's not putting the commandments of men, but yeah, he's participating in their traditions, maybe, without putting them on that pedestal above Torah that the Jews were doing, and he's not participating in some of the pagan practices that the Gentiles are participating in. He's simply associating with them. I can associate with a murderer without being a murderer or an adulterer, etc., etc. So don't think that Paul was actively doing all the things that, I guess I don't want to say was responsible for these people not being saved. He wasn't doing those things. Paul's not stupid, okay? And like I said, one thing I wanted to show was being under the law. He's not talking about under Torah. He's talking about being under the law of sin and the law of death because they don't have their faith. Okay? They're not in the true faith. And if you go to Romans 8 and 2. Let's turn to Romans 8 and 2 real quick, and I'll show you guys another passage. Romans 8 and 2. I'll put it right here on the screen. Actually, 1 and 2. There is therefore no condemnation to them which are in Messiah Yahusha, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. For the law of the Spirit of life in Messiah Yahusha hath made me free from the law of sin and death. So it's the faith in the Messiah and his crucifixion, death, and resurrection that has freed us from the law of sin and death. Okay? But what does that mean? Does that mean, okay, now we can again, Paul talks about this. Paul talks about all of it. Now that we're saved, we can sin. We're not under Torah any longer. We don't have to follow it. No, that's not what Paul says. And he even says it's not our faith that makes us not have to follow Torah. Okay? He says in Romans 3, verse 31, do we then make void the law through faith? Yahuwah forbid we establish the law. Okay? And then again, Romans 6:1. What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? Yahuwah forbid. Again, how shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein? Okay? Not dead to Torah, but dead to the law of sin. All right? The law of sin is different, but it's a necessity of Torah. It's that requirement, and I'll talk about that in another video. I don't want to go too far into that, but that's the difference that it's talking about. Okay. So that's pretty much all I wanted to make this video about today. Was just another topic that I actually never did a post on, so my notes were kind of scattered here. The video may seem scattered, but that is all I want to talk about, was that passage in 1 Corinthians where he says he became as a Jew or became as a Gentile, that he was not actually talking about becoming one or doing the things that they do, that he was trying to get the message across to them in the first place because they didn't have the right message. He wasn't participating in what they were necessarily doing. Okay. So that's all I want to make this video about today. Again, there's no post on it, so I may make a post on it later and put a link to the video in it so you guys can listen. It's on my Instagram page, Search the Scripture. You can shoot me an email at searchthescripture77@gmail.com with any questions, or if you guys want to participate in some of the discussions or debates that we have, we can hook it up with Skype. Like I said, if you're new to Torah and you want to catch up and be updated with the videos that are posted, go ahead and subscribe and then follow on Instagram, and I'll be posting updates to not only my videos, but maybe some of my videos with a buddy, a brother that I have, post some of his videos, the link to his videos, and he may be able to better explain something, or maybe what I have or what he has in addition onto each other. So just subscribe and then follow on Instagram to be updated if you're new to Torah and you're looking for these answers or explanations of what these certain passages know on why Paul's confusing. And again, I talked about at the beginning of my video, why is Paul confusing? Talked about that. I may make a short video later on about Paul and the law and the prophets and foundation and all of that. But until then, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Shalom and be safe. Thank you.